Thanks for coming. My name is Kirk King. It's a real pleasure to be here at this Congress on this beautiful campus. I'm a fourth-year student, PhD student in ethnomusicology at the University of British Columbia. I'm also a member of UBC's Public Scholars Initiative, or PSI. And today I would like to speak about both of these things and how public scholarship and the PSI have shaped my own research as an ethnomusicologist. I became interested in Japanese traditional music after moving to Japan in 2002 to work as an English teacher in the public school system. While doing this, I participated for 9 years in a community group that performed ritual music for Japanese lion dancing in a rural autumn festival. I wrote a dissertation on the topic of festival participation and local identity for a master's degree in world music studies from the University of Sheffield. My 11 years in Japan allowed me to carry out deep research over a long period of time, which I believe produces rich and abundant data, as well as more informed understanding of it. Shortly after the completion of my MA, a Japanese friend of mine lent me a stack of CDs of music from Okinawa, Japan's southernmost island chain. One in particular grabbed me, a CD of Karikaru Rinsho, an Okinawan folk or minyo singer who lived from 1920 to 1999. I was so moved by his singing that I wanted to learn more about his life and music. I could hear much emotion and pain expressed in his voice, but his style was nonetheless controlled and cool. A critic once remarked, "Karikaru sings Okinawan blues." Karikaru lived an eventful life. He'd been musically gifted from a young age. He joined the Japanese Imperial Army at the age of 19 and was stationed in Micronesia. According to one authoritative source, he was injured and taken prisoner, but in fact I would discover later that this story was not entirely true, but it makes for a tantalizing story that contributes to the legacy of Karikaru in Okinawa. Karikaru suffered during the war, however. His weight halved from sickness and starvation. It was so bad that notice of his death was sent back to his family in Japan. Nonetheless, he in fact returned to Okinawa after a year, much to the surprise of his mother, who actually thought she had seen a ghost. Karikaru returned home to find Okinawa in ruins and devastated by war. The final battle of World War II had destroyed a third of Okinawa's population, along with its landscape, its communities, and its morale. He worked for a U.S. base in Okinawa before his singing would later bring him fame, if not fortune. Karikaru reached his peak of fame in Okinawa and Japan in the 70s and would only increase in popularity until the present. There has since been a plethora of unreleased Karikaru CDs, recordings, and compilations released since his death in 1999, and he is popular among world music fans worldwide. Taking a biographical approach, my research looks at key events in Karikaru's life that influenced his music, which in turn inspired generations of musicians and listeners to follow. It also examines the networks of people and institutions that validate particular musicians and elevate them to positions of prominence in their musical worlds. From January to April of this year, I carried out doctoral fieldwork and research in Japan and Okinawa, which included interviews with some 20 people, as well as research at archives, libraries, etc. This was made possible through support and funding of UBC's Faculty of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies Public Scholars Initiative, and Kirk, Canada's main funding body. I'd like to talk about public scholarship more generally before I discuss it as an element of my research. The UBC's Faculty of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies initiated the Public Scholars Initiative, PSI, in 2015, supporting 39 doctoral students whose work seeks to bridge academia and the communities in which they work or work to improve. They collaborate with institutions and organizations outside the university in communities, academia, business, science, social research, and more. They also seek to reimagine the dissertation in ways that reflect and contribute to this exchange. Through this exchange, students also open up new career opportunities. This is the UBC Faculty of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies homepage, which shows clearly the PSI model here. That's not quite clear to see, but it says PhD education, broader career readiness, and purposeful social contribution. Incidentally, the coordinator of our PSI program is here in the room. Here's F.A. Paquer. If you want to talk to him about it after, I'm sure he'd be willing to. Further on in the website, it reads, the UBC Public Scholars Initiative is an innovative pilot program intended to explore how a top-tier university can support doctoral pathways that encourage purposeful social contribution, innovative forms of collaborative research, and broader career readiness for students. Oh, there it is. Okay. The PSI holds regular events throughout the year, showcasing the work of its members and inviting guest speakers and presenters. Events have included music performance, film, and riveting discussions attended by students, faculty, and members of the community. For more general information on public scholarship, there are some good links at the PSI website. Please do have a look. I'd like to narrow my discussion now to what public scholarship means to me as an ethnomusicologist and how it applies in my research. Ethnomusicologists are already well situated to carry out public-based scholarship due to the way we rely on people groups and communities to provide the data of our research. Indeed, 3 of the 39 students in the PSI are ethnomusicologists. Their work often contributes to the common good, if only through bringing the lesser-known musical traditions of the world and the issues behind them to a wider audience, and to understand why music is essential to every cultural group around the world, to give but a few examples. My vision of public scholarship entails producing ethnography that gives participants in my research a voice and a platform to relay their knowledge. This approach relies on their expertise and experience as professional musicians, music business workers, teachers, and other. Not only to produce richer and more authentic accounts in our writing, but also to bring new ideas and different ways of thinking to academic research and discussion. A public scholar approach entails cooperating closely with research participants to establish shared understandings and truth. In this way, our participants are more than strictly informants. We see them as collaborators, participants. I believe this is not accomplished in short fieldwork visits, but rather in long-term and periodic research trips. The more time in the field, the better. A public scholar must also be prepared to adjust the research methods and objectives according to what is actually uncovered in the field. For me, it is also important to give back to the communities that assist us in our research and, in turn, our career development. I do this by offering my services, such as assisting a local musician and research participant with an English application to an international music festival, providing translation services, etc. Furthermore, I strive to produce a dissertation that is not only submitted for academic credit, but one that is fit for public consumption in a resulting book on my research, one that has public impact for the local community and has meaning for them. Finally, I intend to submit my findings to relevant local archives. Sorry, pardon me, I'm operating 2 screens here at the same time. The PSI component of my research this past year involved a fieldwork trip to the island of Kuda, about 30 minutes by ferry from the main island of Okinawa. This was the site of one of Karekaru's final performances in 1996. Until this time, few Okinawans visited the island because it is the most sacred place in Okinawa, Kami no Shima, the island of the gods, and too revered to be set foot upon. The concert of '96 was the first concert on the island ever, and a grassroots collective of volunteers and artists known as Spirit Nature Island produced it. I visited Kuda Island with the founder of Spirit Nature Island, Chinen Mitsuji, as an exercise in memory recollection. I hope that by visiting the island together and having discussions with Mr. Chinen and other concert staff, we could generate stories and memories more richly, and I believe that this was successful. Mr. Chinen is also a staunch supporter of the anti-base movement in Okinawa. Currently, American bases occupy 1/5 of Okinawa's land and host 75% of the US bases in all of Japan, even though Okinawa is 1/300th the size of Japan. Problems of crime, violence, and accidents associated with the military presence and a generally militaristic atmosphere causes concern for Okinawans, for whom the memory of World War II's devastation remains. Many fear future attacks with Okinawa's bases as a target. And these are some press-related base-related press here. As part of my PSI research, I will add my new findings to the Spirit Nature Island website, which hosts information about the Kuda Island concert and a live CD of it. I will also translate the current Japanese information into English, and this is the final stage of the project to be carried out this summer. The website will also host audio and video files and data linked with a chapter from my dissertation and future publications resulting from that about my research on Kuda Island and in Okinawa. Okay, well, I've discussed public scholarship and how it applies to my research. In conclusion, I just want to point out some of the broader significance of this research, which is to promote understanding and discussion of Okinawan problems in the academic community and beyond, promote public scholarship and collaborative means to problem solving, and finally to developing networks in Japan and linking them to Canada. Thank you very much.